All right, let's dive in. Today, we're talking about a journey from a creative spark all the way to a successful business. And we're going to look at it through the lens of fashion. It's called the SNS Fashion Odyssey. And it's this really fascinating roadmap showing how a little bit of structure can actually be the secret ingredient for creativity. So let's get started. You know that feeling, right? Staring at a blank page or just having a million ideas swirling around in your head. It feels like a total mess. But what if that mess isn't the problem? What if it's actually the perfect starting point for something incredible? Okay, so that's the big question, isn't it? How do you take all that chaotic energy and turn it into something real, something innovative? It can feel like an impossible task, but guess what? There's actually a roadmap for it. So, first up on our journey, going from chaos to a solid concept. This is where, the magic really starts to happen. I want you to picture a fashion designer studio for a second. There are fabrics draped everywhere, sketches taped to the walls, maybe threads all over the floor. It looks chaotic, right? Well, that's what they call the chaos/challenge phase. It's that point where creativity can kind of feel like pure confusion. But here's the thing, that mess, that's the raw material for something amazing. So, how do you get through all that chaos? Well, there's a process for it called design thinking. It all starts with empathy. So let's say a student wants to design a sustainable clothing line. First, she empathizes with her customers and realizes, hey, people are really tired of fast fashion. Then, she defines that problem. From there, she starts brainstorming, ideating, solutions, and boom! Suddenly, she's got this amazing idea for a collection made from upcycled denim. It just goes to show you, structure doesn't kill creativity. It actually gives it direction. Okay, so you've got your concept. What's next? Well, now you've got to build a solid foundation for it. This stage is all about creating the framework and the culture that's going to support your vision and help it grow. In any creative project, the culture is absolutely everything. This roadmap calls it the 3P culture, and it's pretty simple. It's about having a clear purpose, knowing why you're doing this. It's about having a solid process, like that design thinking we just talked about. And of course, it's about having the right people around you, collaborating and bringing that awesome energy.
And to really support that culture, you need the right tools in your toolbox. That's where the 3C framework comes in. First, you need a creative attitude, that willingness to push the limits. Then, you need logic. Think of it like the blueprints, whether that's pattern making for a dress or writing code for an app. And finally, you need the technique, the actual hands-on skill to sew that garment or build that software.
So let's see how this stuff translates directly to our fashion world example. The 5 pillars in this system are things like learning, upskilling, innovating, and networking, which, if you think about it, is pretty much the entire journey of a fashion student, right? And then there's spine, health, hobbies, clubs. This is such a great reminder that creativity doesn't just come from grinding away at work. It's fueled by a healthy, balanced life.
All right, we've got our framework. Now it's time to grow. This is the phase where we start to really stitch those early dreams into a reality. And we do it using collaboration and some seriously cool new tools.
Collaboration is just so critical for growth. And that's where this idea of fashion tribes comes into play. So this number, 15, what it represents is these distinct, specialized creative teams. They come from a framework called Innovation 7+7. Really, just think of it as the power you get when you have small, focused groups all working together.
And these tribes aren't just some abstract idea. We're talking about real specializations. You've got your textile designers, your digital illustrators, your fashion marketing whizzes, your sustainability experts. When you bring all these different groups together, they can create something way bigger and better than any one person could on their own. It's how you get really unique, diverse styles.
Okay, and this is where things get really futuristic. During what they call GenAI Enablement sessions, students are actually using AI to help them visualize totally new concepts. Just imagine, you're designing a collection about climate change and you use AI to generate these incredible patterns and shapes that you would have never thought of on your own. It's this perfect marriage of high-tech and high fashion. Okay, so let's recap. We've gone from chaos to a real concept. We've built a solid framework, we've supercharged it with innovation. Now, it's showtime. This is the runway of success, where all that hard work finally gets put to the test. But success on the runway doesn't just happen by accident. It comes from having really clear goals. Just look at the difference here. On one hand, you've got a vague idea. Design a new collection. That's nice. But on the other hand, complete a 5-piece sustainable collection for the Eco Fashion Show. Now that's a SMART goal. It's specific, it's measurable. It basically turns a vague dream into a real deadline.
And speaking of ambitious goals, what's the ultimate vision here? It's this big number, 1,000. The mission is to launch 1,000 AI startups. This is where that blend of creativity and technology really scales up. We're talking about entrepreneurs creating businesses that do things like build AI-powered smart wardrobes. It's the perfect fusion of algorithms and pure artistry.
And this all points to a really crucial mindset shift. Excellence isn't some final destination you arrive at. It's a continuous process. When you have a growth mindset, every little flaw, whether it's a loose thread on a dress or a bug in some code, it's not a failure. It's just a chance to make the masterpiece even better.
And that brings us to the grand finale of this whole process. This is where we see the entire journey come full circle, from that first messy sketch all the way to a real startup that's making a real impact in the world.
So this timeline really sums up the whole Odyssey, doesn't it? You start with chaos, just a mess of ideas. Then you build a framework using structured thinking. You find growth through innovation and working with others. You aim for excellence, your big runway moment. And in the end, you make a real impact by launching something brand new.
When you get right down to it, the whole thing works because of this powerful combination. You have the structure of design thinking giving you a logical path forward. And then you have technology like AI that lets you scale up. And when you put those two together, something huge like launching 1,000 startups, well, it stops being just a dream and starts becoming something you can actually achieve.
So, we've walked through this whole roadmap from mess to masterpiece. And the last question really isn't about this process or about fashion. It's about you. We all have our own creative chaos, right? So the only question left is, what are you going to design with yours?